Here we'll discuss growth hormone. So growth hormone is a protein that's created, stored and secreted from the anterior pituitary, and the cells responsible for this are the somatotrophs or acidophiles. The stimulus for release is growth hormone releasing hormone, decreased glucose and decreased free fatty acids in the plasma, and fasting is one thing that will promote growth hormone's release. Its inhibitors of release are growth hormone inhibitory hormone, also known as somatostatin, and increased glucose and free fatty acids in the blood will inhibit its release also. So feeding is one way of reducing growth hormone production. It's transported in the blood both in solution and bound to growth hormone binding protein, and it has a half-life in the blood of about 20 to 50 minutes. Its action is through binding to membrane receptors, and its biological responses can be summarized as control of metabolism through increasing blood glucose and stimulating the release of insulin-like growth factor, which promotes growth throughout the body. So here shows the regulation and feedback mechanisms of growth hormone. It's part of the hypothalamus pituitary organ axis, and stimuli to the hypothalamus like stress and sleep, serotonin and dopamine will cause the hypothalamus to secrete growth hormone releasing hormone that then passes to the pituitary to release growth hormone, and then it goes on to affect target organs like the liver, where it will release somatomedin or insulin-like growth factor, promoting growth in other tissues. But this also feeds back to the pituitary to prevent excessive release of growth hormone. Growth hormone itself will also feed back to the hypothalamus to prevent the release of GHRH, and GHRH shows ultra-short loop feedback to inhibit its own production. And so we can see it's a reasonably complicated feedback loop that has multiple factors that then inhibit different locations. So this table shows you what stimulates and inhibits growth hormone release. Growth hormone releasing hormone is also known as somatocrinin, and that will stimulate growth hormone production. It has a circadian rhythm, and its highest release is during sleep, and particularly deep sleep. Growth hormone is also released in response to stress to both protect and enhance the growth of muscles, and hypoglycemia will stimulate its release, and you'll see that it's actually released during long-term fasting to protect muscles. High amino acids in the body, in the plasma, will stimulate the release of growth hormone to enhance their utilization for growth. Low free fatty acids goes along with fasting and starvation, and then different adrenergic agonists and antagonists will stimulate its release, as will estrogens. Its inhibitors then, somatostatin, corticosteroids, the well-fed state inhibits growth hormone release, like hyperglycemia and high free fatty acid levels. People who suffer from obesity generally have lower circulating levels of growth hormone, and so on. This table summarizes the effects of growth hormone on different tissues, in particularly pointing out the metabolic effects of growth hormone. So in adipose tissue, it increases lipolysis, and on muscle, it increases amino acid transport and uptake. It increases protein synthesis and antagonizes insulin's effect on glucose metabolism. So it will prevent glucose uptake, and it causes the liver to increase glucose output by stimulating glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis, and it stimulates fatty acid oxidation and ketogenesis, which goes together with the lipolysis of the adipose tissue, and then via the effects of insulin-like growth factor, it stimulates bone formation, proliferation of connective tissue, and growth of all the viscera. And so the overall functions then of growth hormone are to preserve muscle, to stimulate protein synthesis, and then to enhance blood glucose and fatty acids for energy. So it preserves the protein part of it and then increases the utilization of glucose and fats. And so this shows you overall what growth hormones' effects are on metabolism. It increases plasma glucose, increases plasma free fatty acids, and decreases plasma amino acids and plasma urea. On the muscle, it reduces uptake, increases amino acid uptake, and increases protein synthesis. And through this process, then, you get an increase in lean body mass. At the same time, in the adipose tissue, it decreases glucose uptake and increases lipolysis, decreasing the amount of adipose tissue you have and further contributing to the accumulation of lean body mass. And then it has a bunch of functions on other organs, and most of these are to increase protein synthesis, increase DNA and RNA synthesis, and in general then the organ size and the organ functions are all increased. And we see this also in chondrocytes, where amino acids are uptaken, and this stimulates protein synthesis, DNA and RNA synthesis, and a general increase in cell size and cell number. The functions of growth hormone antagonize insulin's effects on carbohydrate and fat metabolism, and it supports the effects of glucagon, epinephrine, and cortisol in the effects of carbohydrate and fat metabolism, whereas its effects on amino acid uptake and protein synthesis parallel insulin's actions. So it has a particular place in the regulation of metabolism. Its growth promoting action is facilitated by thyroid hormone, insulin, and sex hormones, and its structure is species specific, meaning that we cannot use growth hormone from other animals to promote its action in our bodies.